Hi, it's Raisa Shafira Affandi again. In this module, we'll explore reading poems, allowing words to wash over you. Let's jump in. Our learning objectives for this module are 1. To learn an easy step-by-step to approaching poetry as a beginner, and 2. To learn how to deepen your understanding of poetry while prioritizing personal enjoyment of the poem. Now, where to start? Reading poetry is different from reading prose or academic writing. Don't worry about getting it or figuring out what the poet is trying to say. In prose, you perhaps absorb the idea, but in poems, you perhaps absorb the feeling. So instead of trying to understand the meaning right away, your first focus could be: what images and ideas appear in your mind while reading? How does it make you feel? What was your overall impression or reaction to the poem? Also, poetry began as an oral art form, so you can also try reading the poem out loud. See if any of your impressions to it change or become deeper. You can also go to poetry readings and listen to a performer or the author read their poems. This can also give you new impressions of the poem. Now, that's just how we begin. What about if we like a poem so much we want to go deeper? If you find a poem particularly striking, you may want to go deeper. So when you find a line, stanza, phrase, or word that makes you react, maybe it paints a clear picture in your mind, maybe it makes your stomach churn, maybe it reminds you of a memory, a feeling, an idea, take note of that. Then you can begin to think about how each word works to create this reaction in you. Generally, every single word in a poem is very carefully chosen. Why did the poet choose this word or put these two ideas together? Maybe you will discover something in it that you hadn't realized before, creating more and more epiphanies in you. Aside from thinking about the words and the images and ideas, you can also think about how the poem sounds, just like in the module before. Some questions to consider are there repeated consonant or vowel sounds? Does it flow smoothly and calmly? Do its rhymes make it sound full of energy? Does it break rhythm? Is it consistent? Are there maybe awkward, odd pauses that give you a sense of feeling stuck? What is the effect on your reaction to the poem? You can also try looking for deeper meanings in other ways. For example, some poems contain references to other things, like the Bible, other poems, paintings, and more. If you want to go deeper, you can always look up the artwork or whatever else the poem references. If you're confused by a word, you can always use a dictionary to find its meaning. However, it's important to remember a lot of poems evoke confusing or unclear meanings on purpose. In this case, focus again on the impression the poem gives you and think about how the words and sounds shape this. Remember, reading poetry is a personal experience, but you can also enrich your own experience by reading what other people thought of the poem. Now, let's review what we've learned. When reading poems, it's best to begin by considering the feelings and reactions it gives you instead of its overall idea. You can read it silently or out loud, or even listen to a performance of it. If a poem particularly resonates with you, you can take notes of the parts which you found most striking and think about how the words are working to give you a particular reaction. If you want to understand more about the poem, but don't understand some things, feel free to look up other sources, even other people's interpretations. And that's it for this module. Remember, sometimes the best way to understand poetry is to let it speak to you naturally. See you in the next session.